Hello, hello. This is Cathi with Cathi Audiobooks and High Horse Press. And today we have episode 6 of Black Beauty by Anna Sewell. In today's episode, disaster strikes when a fire breaks out in the stables. After the fire, John Manley has a quiet but powerful talk with James about what it means to be brave. Then a late-night emergency sends John and Black Beauty racing through the icy dark to fetch the doctor. Here we go. 16. The fire. Later on in the evening, a traveler's horse was brought in by the second hostler, and while he was cleaning him, a young man with a pipe in his mouth lounged into the stable to gossip. "I say, Towler," said the hostler, "just run up the ladder into the loft and put some hay down into this horse's rack, will you? Only lay down your pipe." "All right," said the other, and went up through the trap door, and I heard him step across the floor overhead and put down the hay. James came in to look at us the last thing, and then the door was locked. I cannot say how long I slept, nor what time in the night it was, but I woke up very uncomfortable, though I hardly knew why. I got up, and the air seemed all thick and choking. I heard Ginger coughing, and one of the other horses seemed very restless. It was quite dark, and I could see nothing, but the stable seemed full of smoke, and I hardly knew how to breathe. The trap door had been left open, and I thought that was the place it came from. I listened and heard a soft rushing sort of noise and a low crackling and snapping. I did not know what it was, but there was something in the sound so strange that it made me tremble all over. The other horses were all awake, some pulling at their halters, others stamping. At last I heard steps outside, and the hostler who put up the traveler's horse burst into the stable with a lantern and began to untie the horses, and tried to lead them out, but he seemed in such a hurry and so frightened himself that he frightened me still more. The first horse would not go with him. He tried the second and third, and they too would not stir. He came to me next and tried to drag me out of the stall by force. Of course, that was no use. He tried us all by turns and then left the stable. No doubt we were very foolish, but danger seemed to be all around, and there was nobody we knew to trust in, and all was strange and uncertain. The fresh air that had come in through the open door made it easier to breathe, but the rushing sound overhead grew louder. And as I looked upward through the bars of my empty rack, I saw a red light flickering on the wall. Then I heard a sound of "Fire!" outside, and the old hostler quietly and quickly came in. He got one horse out and went to another, but the flames were playing round the trap door, and the roaring overhead was dreadful. The next thing I heard was James's voice, quiet and cheery, as it always was. "Come, my beauties, it's time for us to be off, so wake up and come along." I stood nearest the door, so he came to me first, patting me as he came in. "Come, Beauty, on with your bridle, my boy, and we'll soon be out of this smother." It was on in no time. Then he took the scarf off his neck and tied it lightly over my eyes, and patting and coaxing, he led me out of the stable. Safe in the yard, he slipped the scarf off my eyes and shouted, "Here, somebody, take this horse while I go back for the other." A tall, broad man stepped forward and took me, and James darted back into the stable. I set up a shrill whinny as I saw him go. Ginger told me afterward that whinny was the best thing I could have done for her, for had she not heard me outside, she would never have had the courage to come out. There was much confusion in the yard, the horses being got out of other stables, and the carriages and gigs being pulled out of houses and sheds, lest the flames should spread farther. On the other side, the yard windows were thrown up, and people were shouting all sorts of things. But I kept my eye fixed on the stable door, where the smoke poured out thicker than ever, and I could see flashes of red light. Presently I heard above all the stir and din a loud, clear voice, which I knew was Master's. "James Howard! James Howard! Are you there?" There was no answer, but I heard a crash of something falling in the stable, and the next moment I gave a loud, joyful neigh, for I saw James coming through the smoke, leading Ginger with him. She was coughing violently, and he was not able to speak. "My brave lad," said Master, laying his hand on his shoulder. "Are you hurt?" James shook his head, for he could not yet speak. "Aye," said the big man who held me. "He's a brave lad, no mistake." "And now," said Master, "when you have got your breath, James, we'll get out of this place as quickly as we can." And we were moving toward the entry, when from the marketplace there came a sound of galloping feet and loud rumbling wheels. "'Tis the fire engine! The fire engine!" shouted 2 or 3 voices. "Stand back! Make way!" And clattering and thundering over the stones, 2 horses dashed into the yard with a heavy engine behind them. The firemen leaped to the ground. There was no need to ask where the fire was. It was rolling up in a great blaze from the roof. We got out as fast as we could into the broad, quiet marketplace. The stars were shining, and except the noise behind us, all was still. Master led the way to a large hotel on the other side, and as soon as the hostler came, he said, "James, I must now hearken to your mistress. I trust the horses entirely to you. Order whatever you think is needed." And with that he was gone. The master did not run, but I never saw mortal man walk so fast as he did that night. There was a dreadful sound before we got into our stalls. The shrieks of those poor horses that were left burning to death in the stable. It was very terrible, and made both Ginger and me feel very bad. We, however, were taken in and well done by. The next morning, the master came to see how we were and to speak to James. I did not hear much, for the hostler was rubbing me down, but I could see that James looked very happy, and I thought the master was proud of him. Our mistress had been so much alarmed in the night that the journey was put off till the afternoon. So James had the morning on hand, and went first to the inn to see about our harness and the carriage, and then to hear more about the fire. When he came back, we heard him tell the hostler about it. At first, no one could guess how the fire had been caused. But at last, a man said he saw Dick Towler go into the stable with a pipe in his mouth, and when he came out, he had not one, and went to the tap for another. Then the under-hostler said he had asked Dick to go up the ladder to put down some hay, but told him to lay down his pipe first. Dick denied taking the pipe with him, but no one believed him. I remember our John Manley's rule, never to allow a pipe in the stable, and thought it ought to be the rule everywhere. James said the roof and floor had fallen in, and that only the black walls were standing, that 2 poor horses that could not be got were buried under the burnt rafters and tiles. 17. John Manley's Talk. The rest of our journey was very easy, and a little after sunset we reached the house of my master's friend. We were taken into a clean, snug stable, and there was a kind coachman who made us very comfortable, and who seemed to think a good deal of James when he heard about the fire. "There's one thing quite clear, young man," he said. "Your horses know who they can trust. It is one of the hardest things in the world to get horses out of a stable when there's either fire or flood. I don't know why they won't come out, but they won't. Not 1 in 20. We stopped 2 or 3 days at this place and then returned home. All went well on the journey. We were glad to be in our own stable again, and John was equally glad to see us. Before he and James left us for the night, James said, "I wonder who's coming in my place." "Little Joe Green at the lodge," said John. "Little Joe Green? Why, he's a child." "He is 14 and a half," said John. But he's such a little chap." "Yes, he is small, but he is quick and willing, and kind-hearted too. And then he wishes very much to come, and his father would like it. And I know the master would like to give him the chance. He said if I thought he would not do, he would look out for a bigger boy. But I said I was quite agreeable to try him for 6 weeks." "6 weeks? 6 weeks?" said James. "Why, it'll be 6 months before he can be of much use. It'll make you a deal of work, John." "Well," said John with a laugh, "work and I are very good friends. I never was afraid of work." "You are a very good man," said James. "I wish I may ever be like you." "I don't often speak of myself," said John. "But as you are going away from us out into the world to shift for yourself, I'll just tell you how I look on these things. I was just as old as Joseph when my father and mother died of the fever within 10 days of each other, and left me and my crippled sister Nellie alone in the world, without a relation we could look to for help. I was a farmer's boy, not earning enough to keep myself, much less both of us, and she must have gone to the workhouse but for our mistress. Nellie calls her angel, and she has a good right to do so. She went and hired a room for her with old Widow Mallet, and she gave her knitting and needlework when she was able to do it. And when she was ill, she sent her dinners and many nice, comfortable things, and was like a mother to her. Then the master, he took me into the stable under old Norman, the coachman that was then. I had my food at the house and my bed in the loft, and a suit of clothes and 3 shillings a week so that I could help Nellie. And then there was Norman. He might have turned round and said at his age he could not be troubled with a raw boy from the plough-tail, but he was like a father to me, and took no end of pains with me. When the old man died some years after I stepped into his place, and now, of course, I have top wages and can lay by for a rainy day or a sunny day, as it may happen, and Nellie is as happy as a bird. So, you see, James, I am not the man that should turn up his nose at a little boy and vex a good, kind master. No, no. I shall miss you very much, James, but we shall pull through, and there's nothing like doing a kindness when 'tis put in your way, and I'm glad I can do it." "Then," James said, "you don't hold with that saying, 'Everybody look after himself and take care of number one.'" "No, indeed," said John. "Where should I and Nellie have been if master and mistress and old Norman had only taken care of number one? Why, she in the workhouse and I hoeing turnips? Where would Black Beauty and Ginger have been if you had only thought of number one? Why, roasted to death. No, Jim, no. That is a selfish, heathenish saying, whoever uses it. And any man who thinks he has nothing to do but take care of number one, why, it's a pity. But what he had been drowned like a puppy or a kitten before he got his eyes open. That's what I think," said John, with a very decided jerk of his head. James laughed at this, but there was a thickness in his voice when he said, "You've been my best friend, except my mother. I hope you won't forget me." "No, lad, no," said John, "and if I ever can do you a good turn, I hope you won't forget me." The next day, Joe came to the stables to learn all he could before James left. He learned to sweep the stable, to bring in the straw and hay. He began to clean the harness and helped to wash the carriage, and he was quite too short to do anything in the way of grooming Ginger and me. James taught him upon Merrylegs, for he was to have full charge of him under John. He was a nice little bright fellow, and always came whistling to his work. Merrylegs was a good deal put out at being mauled about, as he said, by a boy who knew nothing. But toward the end of the 2nd week, he told me confidentially that he thought the boy would turn out well. At last, the day came when James had to leave us. Cheerful as he always was, He looked quite downhearted that morning. "You see," he said to John, "I am leaving a great deal behind. My mother and Betsy and you, and a good master and mistress, and then the horses and my old Merrylegs. At the new place there will not be a soul that I shall know. If it were not that I shall get a higher place and be able to help my mother better, I don't think I should have made up my mind to it. It's a real pinch, John." "Aye, James, lad, so it is. But I should not think much of you if you could leave your home for the first time and not feel it. Cheer up, you'll make friends there, and if you get on well, as I am sure you will, it'll be a fine thing for your mother, and she will be proud enough that you have got into such a good place as that." So John cheered him up, but everyone was sorry to lose James. As for Merrylegs, he pined after him for several days and went quite off his appetite. So John took him out several mornings with a leading rein when he exercised me, and trotting and galloping by my side, got up the little fellow's spirits again, and he was soon all right. Joe's father would often come in and give a little help, as he understood the work, and Joe took a great deal of pains to learn, and John was quite encouraged about him. 18. Going for the doctor. One night, a few days after James had left, I had eaten my hay and was lying down in my straw fast asleep, when I was suddenly roused by the stable bell ringing very loud. I heard the door of John's house open and his feet running up the hall. He was back again in no time. He unlocked the stable door and came in calling out, "Wake up, Beauty! You must go well if you ever did." And almost before I could think, he got the saddle on my back and the bridle on my head. He just ran around for his coat, and then he took me at a quick trot up to the hall door. The squire stood there with the lamp in his hand. "Now, John," he said, "ride for your life. That is, for your mistress's life. There's not a moment to lose. Give this note to Dr. White. Give your horse a rest at the inn, and be back as soon as you can." John said, "Yes, sir," and was on my back in a minute. The gardener who lived at the lodge had heard the bell ring and was ready with the gate open, and away we went through the park and through the village and down the hill till we came to the toll gate. John called very loud and thumped upon the door. The man was soon out and flung open the gate. "Now," said John, "do you keep the gate open for the doctor? Here's the money." And off he went again. There was before us a long piece of level road by the riverside. John said to me, "Now, Beauty, do your best." And so I did. I wanted no whip nor spur, and for 2 miles I galloped as fast as I could lay my feet to the ground. I don't believe that my old grandfather, who won the race at Newmarket, could have gone faster. When we came to the bridge, John pulled me up a little and patted my neck. "Well done, Beauty. Good old fellow," he said. He would have let me go slower, but my spirit was up, and I was off again as fast as before. The air was frosty, the moon was bright. It was very pleasant. We came through a village, then through a dark wood, then uphill, then downhill, till after 8 miles' run, we came to the town, through the streets and into the marketplace. It was all quiet still, except the clatter of my feet on the stones. Everybody was asleep. The church clock struck 3 as we drew up at Dr. White's door. John rang the bell twice and then knocked at the door like thunder. A window was thrown up, and Dr. White, in his nightcap, put his head out and said, "What do you want?" "Mrs. Gordon is very ill, sir. Master wants you to go at once. He thinks she will die if you cannot get there. Here is a note." "Wait," he said. "I'll come." He shut the window and was soon at the door. "The worst of it is," he said, "that my horse has been out all day and is quite done up. My son has just been sent for, and he has taken the other. What is to be done? Can I have your horse?" "He has come at a gallop nearly all the way, sir, and I was to give him a rest here. But I think my master would not be against it, if you think fit, sir." "All right," he said. "I'll soon be ready." John stood by me and stroked my neck. I was very hot. The doctor came out with his riding whip. "You need not take that, sir," said John. "Black Beauty will go till he drops. Take care of him, sir, if you can. I should not like any harm to come to him." "No, no, John," said the doctor. "I hope not." And in a minute we left John behind. I will not tell about our way back. The doctor was a heavier man than John and not so good a rider. However, I did my best. The man at the toll gate had it open. When we came to the hill, the doctor drew me up. "Now, my good fellow," he said, "take some breath." I was glad he did, for I was nearly spent. But that breathing helped me on, and soon we were in the park. Joe was at the lodge gate. My master was at the hall door, for he heard us coming. He spoke not a word. The doctor went into the house with him, and Joe led me to the stable. I was glad to get home. My legs shook under me, and I could only stand and pant. I had not a dry hair on my body. The water ran down my legs, and I steamed all over. Joe used to say, "like a pot of fire." Poor Joe! He was young and small, and as yet he knew very little, and his father, who would have helped him, had been sent to the next village. But I am sure he did the very best he knew. He rubbed my legs and my chest, but he did not put my warm cloth on me. He thought I was so hot I should not like it. Then he gave me a pailful of water to drink. It was so cold and very good, and I drank it all. Then he gave me some hay and some corn, and thinking he had done right, he went away. Soon I began to shake and tremble and turn deadly cold. My legs ached, my loins ached, and my chest ached, and I felt sore all over. Oh, how I wished for my warm, thick cloth as I stood and trembled. I wished for John, but he had 8 miles to walk. So I lay down in my straw and tried to go to sleep. After a long while, I heard John at the door. I gave a low moan, for I was in great pain. He was at my side in a moment, stooping down by me. I could not tell him how I felt, but he seemed to know it all. He covered me up with 2 or 3 warm cloths, and then ran to the house for some hot water. He made me some warm gruel, which I drank, and then I think I went to sleep. John seemed to be very much put out. I heard him say to himself over and over again, "Stupid boy! Stupid boy! No cloth put on! And I dare say the water was cold, too. Boys are no good." But Joe was a good boy, after all. I was now very ill. A strong inflammation had attacked my lungs, and I could not draw my breath without pain. John nursed me night and day. He would get up 2 or 3 times in the night to come to me. My master, too, often came to see me. "Oh, my poor Beauty," he said one day. "My good horse. You saved your mistress's life, Beauty. Yes, you saved her life." I was very glad to hear that, for it seems the doctor had said if we had been a little longer, it would have been too late. John told my master he never saw a horse go so fast in his life. It seemed as if the horse knew what was the matter. Of course I did, though John thought not. At least I knew as much as this, that John and I must go at the top of our speed, and that it was for the sake of the mistress. And there you have it. This has been Black Beauty by Anna Sewell, brought to you by High Horse Press and Cathi Audiobooks, where we bring new life to old classics. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow this podcast or subscribe wherever you listen, and leave a review to help other listeners discover these timeless stories. Join me next week as Black Beauty's journey continues. As always, thank you for listening.